We'll do it live. Hey, Skeptical Root. Sorry about my voice. My throat hurts. 4th of July, goofing off with the kids. Did a lot of screaming. My voice has been about like this for a couple days. My throat hurts if I talk too much. What sucks is that I was going to have a free weekend. The wife and kids are out of town until tomorrow afternoon, and I was hoping to possibly do some streaming, maybe with Friended Forever, but my voice is so shot that, I mean, it still hurts to talk now. It's been good that I haven't really had to talk much the last couple of days, but it just isn't going to happen. Unfortunately, because it was a great week to do it, and I was going to send him some, hey, pick a time this weekend, we'll talk about Matt Dillahunty and objective morality. Yeah, two different topics. Matt Dillahunty and Jordan B. Peterson and their conversation, and the video that I responded to. We wanted to have this conversation. It's on Think Club 3 in his comment section about the video. Go check it out. I was trying to say something he didn't quite understand. You know, we could have streamed about it, but I usually don't have time. I usually get some time Sunday afternoons, Sunday evening today. But this is going to be short because I want to talk about two things really quick. One, I caught the end of the Non Sequitur show here, which I'll put a link to the description of this down in the... Where did I... Oh, over here. Here it is. All right. Go to live streaming. Go to my current live, because it's different. I don't ever think to change the name of this first. This is not Moral Foundations. This is... Objective morality. The two things I want to talk about are objective morality and what was the other part? Making arguments for negative positions. I'll call this atheist burden of proof. I was going to leave the second part as a comment on a video I saw that I decided not to. It was one with Shannon Q, and I closed the tab. I don't remember who it was. Sorry. At one point they were talking about the atheist burden of proof, and I think that there's a common theory going on about what the atheist burden of proof actually is, and I disagree with it. And I'll explain that, but when I get there. This first is for Non Sequitur show. It's something I enjoy. This is from Steve. Well, I guess Steve McRae's channel. All right, so hi Steve, if you will decide to watch this. This is about where I came in the conversation. They were talking about... Cosmic Skeptic did a video about objective morality, and basically he came to the conclusion that morality is always subjective. And they start talking about it through here. And there were some parts in the video here. Like this here too. This is I don't want to spell your name wrong, Steve, here. It's R-A-E. R-A-E. So the one thing that they were talking about, Steve holds the position that you can have objective morals. Shannon Q pushed back a little bit on that, because how can you have an objective moral system when there are situations where that moral doesn't hold true? Don't steal. You know, you might think of don't steal, but what if you're starving and somebody has more than they need? Is it morally good for you to steal in order to survive, or is it morally good? They didn't use that one. They used like a stealing from a thief. Is that wrong? Because you're still stealing. So and my answer to this question has been for a couple of years, is that morals are subjective, but they are subjective on a scale that runs from simple to complex asymptotically. The closer you get to the moral objective, the less reasonable it seems to be. And I use the example of don't kill. You know, we can make plenty of positions along the asymptote going towards the axis of wherever we draw that line, but you get to a point where, you know, something has to die for other things to live. So if you get to this point where you have to, you know, you can't kill anything, then you die, because you won't kill animals, you won't kill plants, you won't kill things that are typical food sources for people or condone that type of stuff, in which case you die, in which case you've killed yourself, in which case you violated your own moral principle. So it becomes increasingly absurd to try to achieve that moral asymptote, but there are plenty of spaces along the way where to say don't kill makes sense. You know, don't kill just because, don't kill except for, and then you put in reasons which move things up along the asymptotic curve. You can say that there is an objective moral standard, but it is unachievable in an objective way. So that's kind of my take on it. Hey, deconverted man. Morals mapped to ethics. So X is objective, that X is the goal. Let me see if I can get my pop-out chat up here, because this is an interesting way to look at this here. Boop, 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 boop. Pull that up. There we go. I'll move this over here. Go back to here. And then, you know, I can do it this way. Does this work? Or is my chat window broken? Nope, that chat's broken. Here, let's do this then. Let's go. You can't see that. Let's go back to. I always forget to fix my chat there. Pull the chat up here. The point he's making here is morals mapped to ethics, so the ethics is objective, in that X is the goal, but the way to get to the goal might change. So it's both, maybe. Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that, you know, think of the graph for X squared. You know, it starts at the, this is all backwards for me, but I'm looking at I'm looking at it. You have the graph is a curve that goes up until, you know, you get to a certain point. Just as it requires more levels of precision, and if it were like a system, it would require more energy to achieve those pure asymptotic goal. It comes to a point where it becomes unstable, and it becomes harder to like you can have that, you can put that law in there, but it is functionally unachievable, not necessarily purely unachievable. Yes, I agree with that. And that's where my asymptotic image of this comes in. You can, for most cases, you can draw a line where you can say, don't run a red light. There are times when you can run a red light. So, I wish my wife would not do that. Hang on a second here. Let's go this, and then we will go to that, and then we will go back to here. Okay. So, yes, I agree with what Deconverted Man is saying here. I'm just looking at it as a model of we can have pure objective goals, but they are practically unachievable. My throat hurts. Please excuse my drinking. So, yes, exactly. It is a... I'm trying to think of how to phrase this without just repeating myself over again about it being asymptotic. But I guess, yeah, so there are plenty of sections along the axis where it is perfectly reasonable to draw that line where you can, it is reasonable, it is achievable. Sometimes it is harder, and it gets harder the more closer you get to achieving that specific moral goal. Goal is a good way to put it. But functionally, the moral objectives are unachievable because there's always situations where it could be possible to not be moral, to follow that moral imperative or that objective moral. And people make the argument with, is it ever okay to rape? Is it ever okay to rape babies? Or what if some alien comes down and says they're going to wipe out all of humanity unless you rape a baby? I mean, that's a bizarre, far way out there example, but it is an example of a time when, even something as clear cut as that, that probably went ding, as clear cut as that makes that particular moral, that particular moral subjective. I was going to say non-objective, but subjective, yeah. That's really all I wanted to say about this. It wasn't necessarily that I think that it was an interesting conversation. Will I go back and watch it from the beginning? Probably not. But that's where I picked it up from there. I actually picked it up around 48 minutes in. So yeah, so they spent a good 45 minutes closing up the conversation. And I watched Cosmic Skeptic's video about it. It wasn't bad. He made some good points, but he also kind of like talked himself into a loop, which was fine. It was probably more of an editing thing he could have done, but he kept talking back to the same position and whatever. So the other thing I was going to talk about is the comment I was going to leave on this other video, which was, let's pull this over here. Let's make it easier to look here. Okay, so this here, can I zoom this? What? Undo. I want to zoom not just that, the whole thing. Well, let me zoom just the window. Of course not. All right, so this comment here. Let's just do this. Go with so that fills the page a little better. Let's just do it. We'll do it live. Screw it. Because I just want to focus on this comment. I want it to get bigger this way. Which isn't working so... Okay, so... That'll work. Big enough font. Aliens say we will do acts. I agree. But the point, though, about aliens, gods saying to do X bad thing unless they do whatever, unless you do whatever. The point was just to outline a moral scenario in which case it could be considered moral to violate that particular objective moral standard. Not that you choosing to do it or not do it was your choice, of course, but it could be seen as moral to do the action because of how it affects others. Okay. He says, but not doing that would, in fact, conflict with ethics. Utilitarian. My higher ethic is to adhere to logic. Also break that ethic, but it would also be moral. But believe me, yes, it would depend on your ethics. But again, the point was just to outline a situation in which case, in which that particular thing that is could be considered completely immoral by any standard could be moral in some standard. So, all right, back onto this other thing though. The argument I had heard was, and I hear this from Gary Edwards quite often about theists and people taking the position that, you know, we just don't accept a belief in God and how that's not philosophically cogent or whatever. However, people like Gary would decide to well, hold on, DM. I'll explain to you what I'm talking about here. I'm in the same camp as Bionic Dance with the rocks and babies are atheist. Now, atheist, not atheists. I think there's a subjective versus objective difference there. Something that doesn't hold a God belief is atheist without being an atheist. An atheist, to the minimum qualification for it would be to not accept a belief in God, or to accept theistic claims, to not have a theist position. But at the same time, I don't think that, like, I think that even as a theist, as people have been trying to use, rocks do not equal anything. They cannot have thoughts, therefore they're not anything. Subjectively, yes, I agree. But objectively, they would indeed not have a theistic position because they don't have anything to process that with. So, from the strictly linguistic perspective, they would be atheist without being an atheist. I think in the first place can be anything regardless of what they believe. That's true. Yes, that's what I'm saying. To have a subjective belief, to accept or not accept it, they would to be an atheist is someone who is capable of hearing or understanding the arguments and not accepting them. But specifically, definitionally, a rock could be described as atheist because it does lack, which is part of the problem with the term atheist in general, is that, you know, it is describing something that you are not, much like a non-stamp collector. Yes, when you talk about an atheist or an agnostic, you're right. Again, subjective versus objective. My webcam is an object that does not hold a theistic belief because it doesn't have subjective experience. So it cannot be an atheist, but it can be atheist, descriptively. Which is where the whole rocks and babies things comes from, and this is where people like Gary Edwards get their knickers in a bunch about it because it is a adjective, not a what's the word I'm looking for there? It's not a belief position. It's not an equivocation, and I'll explain to you. I mean, I don't know that I can explain to you if you aren't following at the position, the point I'm making here with atheist as a descriptor versus atheist as a belief position. An atheist, a subjective belief holder, can be an atheist. A rock cannot be an atheist. A rock can be described as atheist because it is something that doesn't hold God belief. That's the problem with the term. It is not a problem with... We wouldn't say that, like... we wouldn't say that this Swiss Army knife is an atheist. But just by definition, it does not and cannot hold a God belief, and so therefore it cannot be atheist. It would be atheist. But it is not an atheist because it is not a subjective person. You've called this before a natural language problem. And that's basically all it is. But what I'm getting at, though, is that before DM starts getting me off track again, the part that I want to talk about was that atheists don't have a burden of proof to prove that something doesn't exist just because. And it's not even from, like, the positive atheism doesn't require proof, because positive atheism can't prove a negative. And by proving a negative, what I'm referring to is you cannot provide evidence of something not being. You can only fail to find evidence that something isn't, or find evidence that would directly counter a position. Like, say, if you expect a cup to be empty and there's water in it, then you might find that the cup is not empty. But I don't have to, like, I can say that a cup is empty until you can prove that the cup has water in it, because I don't have any knowledge of that. Just as I would not have to have a positive position on it if I didn't even know that there was a cup. Yes, chat 200 character limit. Before you know that there is a cup, you hold a null position on the cup. It requires no evidence to prove that there is no cup, because you don't know that there's a cup. This is kind of where I'm going here. From ignorance, we hold a no belief position. The only time we can hold a belief position is when presented with claims or evidence that such a thing exists. You are completely justified in denying the existence of a cup before there is a cup to present. Much like the Sagan's dragon in his garage. When you start, it's invisible or it's transdimensional or any of the arguments you can find to hide the dragon, you still hold the same position that there is no dragon even before you've heard the argument that there was a dragon. When someone presents a claim to you, it is solely on the responsibility of the claimant to prove that such a thing exists, because you can only provide positive evidence or positive evidence that contravenes the claim. You cannot provide negative evidence. Not finding something, such as not finding a dragon in the garage or not finding the cup, is not evidence that there is no cup or that there is no dragon. Indeed, but saying that there is no God is not a claim, is what I'm arguing here. Because it's not a positive claim, it is an assertion of the null claim, that no such thing exists. Because we begin from a position of ignorance, if you will, of any claim. And when we are in that position, we hold no burden of proof to show that claim, that we are justified in that claim. So if someone says, if I just randomly say, I am not a squirrel, what evidence do you have that I'm not a squirrel? What evidence did you have before I made that claim to believe I was a squirrel? Yes. This they would recently not post a link to an article and say that they mentioned, they'd say Google it. Nope, they made a claim that the thing existed and they must post a link. Indeed. If they told you, though, that there was no Google link for such a thing, or you said that there was no Google link for such a thing, would you be justified in that position having not even known, let's say you didn't even know what Google was? Claiming that there is no God is still not a positive claim any more than claiming that there are no unicorns, leprechauns, or dragons. The point is that even, and I'm going to stab myself in the eye if I say that my point is, again, because I keep saying that. I feel like I keep getting off track, but the argument, and you can see the comment I was going to make here. Let's pull this up. Bigger. Okay, so, excuse me. By default, all positions are not held to be true. This is derived from the null position, which is all you can have for a claim for which you are unaware. You start from a position of, I am unaware of something, so you have no position to hold on anything or on any particular claim. So from ignorance, the claims entirely bear the responsibility to show that they are true. It requires nothing to remain unconvinced, but also to claim such things are untrue unless proven is derived from the claim being null. Just can be reasonably certain that I and you, before hearing the claim I'm about to make, I'm not actually an invisible imaginary dragon. So too can I effectively refute claims that are not proven true, without bearing the responsibility of needing to show that such a belief is justified by refuting all claims made about such a proposition. Proposition's truth, sorry. This is a trap that theists try and get away with in most of the ontological and epistemological arguments. No problem, DM. I'm about done here. That's basically the point I wanted to make here real quick. My throat is not going to last much longer. But because we start from a zero position, we start from a position of unbelief, we start from negative. By making a claim, we are not obligated to refute that claim at any point. In order to believe that claim, we have to be presented logically with evidence or reason to believe, even if that reason to believe is just because I trust the person. We have to logically accept on some grounds that we are given evidence to justify the claim. And in not getting that, we are just as justified to say that your claim is not true. So I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and tell people that there is no God, because no claims for any gods have ever been shown to be true, and I'm just as justified without having to refute the Pascal's wager or the omnifor, as my one philosophy teacher used to refer to, the omnibenevolent, omnipresent, omniscient, and present, omniscient, omnipotent. Yeah, those four. Omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent. I don't have to prove that thing is logically impossible. I don't have to prove that something could have existed outside of time because there was no time before time and all of these things. I don't have to do that. I'm not logically obligated to refute all claims. Claims have to be proven only positively, and even to show that there is no such thing, there's always a chance where they make the particular theistic argument that drives me nuts. Well, you can't be everywhere all the time. You're not omnipresent in the universe. You can't know, what if God went from this place to this place, or that place to that place? And it's drives me freaking batty. But that's it. I got nothing else. My voice is about shot. I start to feel in the back of my throat here. I'm going to fix that chat eventually. But I can start to feel in the back of my throat here where it is not feeling so great here. Why did this bonkers out? I should have a chat window right here. Unless that was the background. Hold on. This one. Is that right? Control A, Control C, Control A, Control V. Done. Booyah! Lock that down. Okay. So that's it. I made my point, I think. Yeah. So that's all I really wanted out of today. Killing some time. Deconverted Man, thanks for showing up. I appreciate that. Give me a little something extra to talk about. Not that I needed it today, but maybe you and I have to do a stream together or something, or a hangout, and that'll give you some chance to figure out how to do this Hangouts thing on the whatchamacallit. So anyway, that's it. As I always say, goodbye and hello, as always.